Alec Murdaugh was sentenced to another 40 years in prison. This is on top of, well, in addition to the 2 life sentences he is serving for the conviction of murdering his wife and son, and the 27 years he is serving for the state financial crimes. His financial crimes range from stealing from his own law firm that his brother was a part of to stealing from a wide variety of clients. Today, I'm going to break down the sentencing document and the restitution order so you can see where he's been ordered to pay restitution. Does Murdaugh being ordered to pay restitution mean that those victims will see the money? It gets very complicated to try to find that money. It's one of the reasons federal prosecutors asked to violate Murdaugh's plea deal. They said that Murdaugh was not truthful with them, particularly about where the money went. And that was one of the things they wanted him to be upfront about. Murdaugh's lawyers have gone to court saying he doesn't have any money left. There's money somewhere. His mother just passed away, but I imagine that those wills were changed so that the money does not go to Murdaugh. It goes to his son, Buster. All of this money didn't like poof, vanish into the air. So could this money be offshore somewhere for the benefit of his family? It's possible. Do we know that for certain? No. This is the problem with trying to find money after it's been offshored. So where is the money? That's a real good question. Do y'all think Dick and Jim work for free? I sure don't. 10:28 a.m. Murdaugh's attorneys have reached an agreement with federal prosecutors to continue with today's proceedings after court filings last week threw a speedy sentencing into doubt. Prosecutors said they're no longer offering a previously agreed recommendation for his sentence, while Murdaugh's attorneys have withdrawn their motion for the polygraph data. Sentencing proceeded before Gergel, one of the others. Before sentencing proceeds, the judge said that he approves of the findings of the pre-sentencing report. The court has determined Alec Murdaugh owes $8,762,731.88 in restitution. 10:40 a.m. Alec Murdaugh addresses the court. Facing the judge, Murdaugh said that he took responsibility for his crimes, described his heavy opiate use and claimed addiction was the key factor in his thefts. He pledged to try to make his victims whole. By what? Betting with beef sticks? Like what do you tell them where the money is? If you want to make the victims whole, tell them where the money is. I don't believe for a second that it's all gone. Quote from Murdaugh. I want you to know, and I want the victims to know, I am filled with sorrow. I am filled with remorse. I am filled with guilt, Murdaugh said. I am very committed to trying to be a better person. At times, Murdaugh was hesitant and appeared to choke on his words. The former attorney, renowned for his quick thinking and ability to speak to anyone, said, "Judge, I know there's not enough time and I don't possess sufficient vocabulary to express to you in words the magnitude of what I feel about what I did. As you pointed out, for a long period of time, I am literally filled with sorrow and I am filled with guilt." Murdaugh placed his addiction to painkillers at the heart of his thefts. Now 937 days sober, Murdaugh said of his opioid usage, quote, "One of the reasons that my addiction grew to the extremes that it did is that I was using opioids to hide from the things I was doing to people that I cared about. I hope with every cell of my existence, I hope that I would not have done the things that I did had I not been addicted to opiates." But in an interjection following Murdaugh's speech, the judge appeared unmoved. Quote, "No truly impaired person could pull off these complex transactions," Gergel said. Instead, Murdaugh used his charm and charisma to seduce a web of conspirators by the siren song of affluence to assist him in his thefts. I agree. I absolutely agree with the judge. He was actively manipulating everyone around him to pull this off. I don't know how willing some might have been, but I think some were afraid of him because he was incredibly influential and powerful. The judge sentences Murdaugh. U.S. District Court Judge Gergel has sentenced Murdaugh to 480 months, 40 years, to run concurrent to his state charges. This is 10 more years than the up to 30-year sentence requested by federal prosecutor Emily Limehouse. In the weeks leading up to the sentencing and throughout the morning proceedings, the judge indicated that he was considering an upwards variance in his sentencing. At one point, the judge mused whether the sentence should serve as a warning to future lawyers who abuse their license to do good, as Gergel said. Quote, "This verdict we make today, we make for the United States, we make for this court, we make for the interest of justice." The judge is pissed that he is a lawyer stealing from clients. It is very rare in a financial crimes case that I have seen a judge not just do an upward variance, but an upward variance above what the prosecutors asked for. The prosecutors asked for like 17 and a half to 30. To go 10 years over the top that the prosecutors asked for is deeply significant and unusual. State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, all of his lawyers pled guilty to counts 1 through 22. Imprisonment. Comes now the Honorable Judge Gergel to tell you what imprisonment you will suffer. The defendant is hereby committed to the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons to be imprisoned for a total term of 480 months. Said term consists of 360 months as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and run concurrently to one another and concurrently to all other counts. 240 months as to counts 5, 6, 7, 8 to run concurrently with one another and concurrently to all other counts. 120 months as to counts 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 through 22 to run concurrently with one another and consecutively to all other counts. So it's the 360 plus the 120 is how you got to 480. The 240 runs concurrently in the middle there. These terms shall run concurrently to the remainder of the undischarged state terms of imprisonment for dockets numbered reference in paragraph 189. Those are the financial crimes. Furthermore, these terms to run concurrently to the prior undischarged state terms of imprisonment in the other docket numbers. Defendant shall pay a special assessment fee of $2,200. Those are the court fees. Restitution in the amount of $102,000 is ordered jointly and severally with co-defendant Corey Fleming. I missed one. This type is breaking my brain. Restitution in the amount of $8,762,731.88, both due and beginning immediately. Restitution in the amount of $102,000 is ordered jointly and severally with co-defendant Corey Fleming under his docket number. Restitution in the amount of $1,414,826.54 is ordered jointly and severally with Russell Lafitte. So it's really more than 8.7 because he's responsible for the restitution fund in the amount of 100,000+, the 8.7 million in direct restitution, and then restitution joint and several with Corey Fleming and Russell Lafitte, meaning both defendants are responsible for it. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the U.S. Marshal, and then they're just going to return him back to South Carolina. Supervised release. If he ever gets outside of custody, which isn't going to happen, the defendant shall be on supervised release for 5 years. While on supervised release, he shall comply with the law, must not incur new credit charges or open additional lines of credit, like no banking. Must provide probation with financial records and reports, general terms of release. I don't think he'll ever see the outside of jail. Mandatory conditions. You must make restitution. You must cooperate in the collection of DNA. He's already done that. The nice thing about restitution is with this, money that gets put on his books can be taken for restitution. It'll be interesting to see if he is already trying to put money on other people's books for his benefit. I guarantee you. If he's not doing it, he's thought of it. These are the loss amounts and what he is ordered to pay. Parker Law Group, formerly his law firm PMPED, $4,544,730.15. Palmetto State Bank, $329,913. Kumis Insurance, $3.8 million. Pamela Pinckney, $13 million. The interest requirement is waived for the restitution, so it's not going to gain interest. Schedule of payments, a lump sum payment of $2,000 and restitution in the amount of $8,700,000 plus are due immediately in accordance with Segment D. Payment in equal monthly installments of $250. Defendant shall receive credit for all payments previously made towards the joint and several amounts. Corey Fleming, and these are the joint and several amounts that Corey Fleming owes Parker Law Group and that Corey Fleming owes Pamela Pinckney. So if Corey Fleming's already paid part of that, Murdaugh could be owed the other part of it. It just deducts as to who's paying. Russell Lucius Lafitte owes over $1 million to Parker Law Group and over $300,000 to Palmetto State Bank. And those are joint and several with Murdaugh. Is any of this going to get paid? I don't know. Preliminary order of forfeiture. They're going to take your shit, but I don't know how much there's left to take. Not a lot of shit was in Murdaugh's name. There was stuff in Maggie's name. I truly just don't know if there's anything left. Y'all remember the Nautilus Insurance case where Murdaugh was getting real sassy and trying to add the Satterfields into the insurance case, Murdaugh's insurance company sued him for fraud, essentially, saying, hey, we paid out this insurance claim because you defrauded us to pay the insurance claim and then you stole it. So Murdaugh got his insurance to pay the Satterfields for Gloria Satterfield's death on his property, saying that the dogs tripped her. And then he said that was all a lie and that he made it all up. And then he stole that $3+ million. So the Satterfields never got the insurance payout and he stole it. So insurance is suing him to get the $3 million back that he stole from them through fraud. He tried to pull the Satterfields into this case. Eric Bland, their lawyer, was having literally none of it. I went back and was digging into what's going on in that case now, given all of this, and found that the court denied that very, very swiftly and without much ceremony. Defendant Murdaugh, it says, had moved to compel the joinder of Tony Satterfield and Brian Harriott as necessary parties under Rule 19A of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Plaintiff has filed a response in opposition, asserting that Satterfield and Harriott are not necessary parties since they claim no interest in this litigation and Murdaugh does not face risk of double obligations. The court finds that Satterfield and Harriott are not necessary parties. Murdaugh's motion to compel joinder is denied. Satterfield and Harriott filed a surreply. Defendant Murdaugh filed a motion to strike the surreply because Satterfield and Harriott are not parties to the action. Defendant Murdaugh's motion to strike the surreply is granted. They're like, it's moot. Murdaugh tried to drag them into another litigation where they would have to pay lawyers, saying, but you can't, like the litigation can't go forward if you're not here. And they're like, we never got any of the insurance money. We're not a part of this. The court agreed. So that was dismissed. This case, it should be noted, is also in front of Judge Gergel. So the federal court is handling quite a lot of these cases and sees everything. So this judge has seen Murdaugh try to pull this over and over and over again. So I'm not surprised that Judge Gergel brought all the smoke for Alec Murdaugh yesterday and called him despicable, among other things. Done with him. Absolutely done with him. I think we're kind of done with him too until the appeal. Murdaugh, you're not the main character anymore, sir. Like, Murdaugh, you done. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.